Welcome back to the Writing Biz. Joining me is Teri Brown, a North Carolina based author and avid cyclist who famously rode a tandem bicycle across the United States to support Toys for Tots. Her diverse body of award winning works include historical fiction set in Ukraine, an Appalachian generational story, a children's picture book, a bicycle adventure memoir, and more. Her latest release is the humorous contemporary novel Peg Unhinged. Today, Terri has joined me to talk about how authors can create their media kit. Thanks for joining me today, Terri.
Thanks so much for having me, Laura. I'm excited to be here with you.
I think it's going to be a very interesting conversation. I know a lot of authors don't put together a media kit, and usually the reason is they don't know what to put in it. I particularly think any author's website should have a media kit because you never know what an opportunity is going to come up.
I
But
agree.
for an author just starting out, what are the absolute must-have elements that should be in their media kit?
So, the first thing I want to say is when you're creating a media kit, I think that you should create what I call an online media kit in a place like Google Docs that you can give someone a link so they can go to that link. Because with a Google Doc, you can change it over and over and over, and whoever has the link will always have the latest media kit. If you create it on just a document that you have to keep changing and then you have to keep sending out to people over and over again, it can get really difficult because you don't know what other people have. So, with that said, when you're getting started, there are definitely things that should be on it. And, the first one, and it sounds crazy because people forget this, is like your name and your contact info, like all of the different ways that you feel comfortable putting out into the world of how they can contact you. If your book is self-published, you don't need this information, but if you have a publisher, you need to put your publisher information and potentially how to contact the publisher as well, because some people may need that information for whatever they're doing. You need to have your bio, you need to have your social media links, and then you need to have information about your book. So the book title, the back of the book blurb, your ISBN number, a cover graphic, your headshot, all of those things so that if someone wants to contact you or say they have already contacted you and now they're trying to create their own, social media posts or whatever, they now have the information they need without having to come back to you. And it saves you time because now you don't have to constantly be recreating the wheel for every person that reaches out to you.
I agree. All of those things are important. I don't want authors to be intimidated by having to put their social media stats if they don't have a large following. But if they do, they definitely should put that information.
Right. And if you don't have a large following, it's okay just to put your social media links, just so that if someone else is wanting to follow you or they're wanting to link to you because they're going to have you on their podcast or whatever, that they have that available to them. That it's an easy thing for them to go and say, "Oh, well, here's all the information I need." What you're trying to do is make it easy for other people to have you on their show, to have you come and speak, to talk with you about your book, to do their own little advertising about you. You want to make it as easy for other people as possible. And you're also making it easy on yourself.
Should you include topics that you can speak about?
Absolutely. One of the things that I think that you should do is, like in mine, I have sample questions and even sample answers that I would give, not the whole answer, but just like a little brief something so that they can understand. For instance, I might be willing to talk about imposter syndrome, and I might give you a couple of little bullet points of things that I could talk about under imposter syndrome. And then speaking engagement topics as well, like very broad topics that you might want to speak on, your different books. For me, it might be riding across the United States on a tandem bicycle. I was also in an abusive relationship for 14 years, and so I'm more than willing to talk about that. So any broad category that you would be willing to speak on is another good thing to have in there.
That's smart. And so You would also put your appearances if you've been on any other podcasts or if you've been mentioned in a magazine or whatever those are.
Absolutely. And
Um,
in fact, you know, when you asked the bare bones, that's what I gave you. But there are a lot of other things
right.
that you can add. And so, like, do you have editorial reviews? Put those in there. Do you have any awards or recognitions for your book? Put those in there. Have you been on any podcasts, done any interviews? Put those links. Do you have other book reviews beyond the editorial reviews? Stick those in there. Anything that shows the breadth and depth of who you are and what you're doing.
I just have to stop 1 second. I was very impressed with the amount of awards that you've won for your books.
Thank you. Thank you. And it's
That's amazing.
it's one of those things you put that in there because you never know what is going to push you over the edge for, they might have four different people they're looking at to have someone maybe come in and do a keynote speaker. And they look and they're trying to decide between the four of you. The more information you give them, the better chance you have of being the one chosen. You want to make sure that they know all that you do. I think one thing that authors tend to do is really limit themselves and think that it's only about their book, just their book and nothing else. And really it's about the book and then you as an author. What else have you done? What else could you speak on? Because as an author, they love to have you come in and then having a breadth of topics. So if you've written a book, for instance, I have a book on a woman going through menopause. Well, I've been on quite a few podcasts recently for middle-aged women going through menopause. It's not about
That's interesting.
right. It's not a book podcast, but it's about a topic that I've done writing on. So I've done some research on, and we talk and we laugh and we talk about my character, and I get to talk about my book, but it isn't a podcast specifically aimed at authors. And so you need to always think about how to widen who you can speak to, because the more people that you're out there getting in front of, the more likely it is that they will find your book.
I agree with that. Most certainly. You're making me have to rethink my media kit. Let me ask you a question. When you're writing your author bio for the media kit, what would you suggest is the best formula for doing that? How should a author put that together to represent themselves in the best light?
So, unfortunately, what someone wants in a bio isn't the same across just even across podcasts. I have different people need different things. So you have to remember that some people want something very, very, very professional. They want to know things like, where you went to school, what awards you've won, what books you've written. Some people want something that's far more down to earth and casual. Some people need 50 words or less. Some people don't care. They'll take, a 300-word bio. So I personally, in my media kit, I have 6 different bios. I have 3 bios that are what I call my formal author bios. One is short, one is medium, and one is long in terms of its length. And so, you figure out what you're going to put in those. And then I have one that is far more, I don't know, I call it kind of generic, maybe. And I have a short, medium, and long. And that one talks about me as a writer, but also like as a mom and a grandma and a bargain shopper and a bridge player and a beachcomber. So that the person who is having me and now they want a bio, they can pick. Do I need a 50-word bio that's casual? Do I need a 50-word bio that's um, far more author-centric and professional? Am I looking for something more medium length? And they get to look through there and pick for themselves. And instead of having to write one every single time, someone says, oh, I need a 75-word one. I have something that's close to that already written. And if I need to chop a few words out, then I go in and do that, and then I can give that to them. And so I just think that's an easier way to handle it, is think about both something very, very professional and something a little more down to earth casual, and then write various lengths of both of those.
It's helpful to do that whether you're creating a bio or not, because then you have that content to use across social media or filling out things for people. I mean, you always have that bio information available. and you're
Absolutely.
not rewriting it every darn time.
Absolutely. And like for me, like I love to go on different kinds of writers' retreats, but usually to get into those, they ask you to fill out an application. And in that application, they always ask for a bio and they always ask for a specific number of words. Sometimes it's 150, sometimes it's 50, sometimes it's 300. And so you can go into all the bios that you've written and mix and match and pull those pieces out and create these bios specifically for someone. So I just think it's a really good idea to think about you, like I said, very professionally. I'm Teri M. Brown. I've written this many books. I have this many awards. I have these degrees, da 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 da, right? And then also hi, I'm Terri Brown. I love to bargain shop. I'm a grandma and I'm a mom and I play bridge every Thursday. And both of those are things that people want. And it just depends, what are they using them for?
Great. That's great. I really like that. And here's something I run into as a web designer very often is an issue with headshots. And the issue is people send me teeny tiny little files. Can you talk a little bit about what makes a good headshot? And then obviously giving them the largest size you have available.
Right,
It's
right. And so, the first thing about a headshot is that you want to make sure that it is professional looking. You do not necessarily have to have a professional photo shoot done, but you do not want it to look like you took a selfie in your backyard or you had a friend snap a picture of you on vacation. Right? You don't want your sunglasses popped on top of your head. You don't want your hair to be weird. You don't want to you want to try to look somewhat professional. You want your background to be relatively bland. Unless maybe like if you are I don't know, if you're a nature writer, you might want something where you're out in nature, so you can do something like that. But you don't want the background to stand out and be so busy that it's more than who you are. Most people want head and shoulders. They don't want just a head, cut you off under the chin. They also don't want a full body pose because most of the time what they're wanting is an actual head shot. And so you're wanting to be thinking about head and shoulders. I also provide I show the picture, I provide it to them in three different ways: as a portrait, as a landscape, and as a square. So that no matter how they're using it, they have something that they can pop into whatever it is they're creating.
as a web designer, I appreciate the forethought there because I run into that all the time. I have one particular website that I run for a publishing organization. It's not a publisher, it's an organization of publishers. And I use a lot of headshots in there for different things. And trying to size them is sometimes very time
Hey,
consuming.
it's
So
time
I
consuming
appreciate that you
and
do that.
and what often happens is if you don't provide something that they need and they just quickly try to take what you've given them, either you now look fuzzy, they've had to crop you in a weird space, and so now all of the stuff that's going out makes you look odd because a lot of people will not spend the time that it takes to make it look good. So you need to give them all that they need so that it looks good from the beginning and they don't have to play around much with it.
Or if they have to search the internet for your
Yes.
picture
Yes.
and
And then
just
they
see
get
what they
a
can find.
right. And then they get a low resolution photo and everything now looks blurry and odd or too gray or whatever. And
Or it's 15 years old.
yes, exactly. And I think another thing, and I just thought of this, and it's probably something I should do as well, is you can take a good color photo of you and turn it black and white. And it might be a good idea to go ahead and do that so that you know that the black and white balance, it looks good, and put that into your
Right.
media kit as well, so that if they're looking for black and white, that they have it available and they don't have to do the job on the other end.
Right. And I also found that if sometimes people take photos of them like in action,
Yeah.
they're doing something. And that's very difficult because now you're putting it on, let's say, a piece of social media content. And it's not like the head and shoulder shot that is this is about this person. You're just looking at a very weird photo
Yes.
that doesn't fit what you're trying to create. I hate that.
Yeah, and well, and when that happens, I mean, it may have looked good for whatever you took the photo for, but now when someone else is trying to use it, for instance, I have a podcast, and when I create a little graphic and it has my headshot and the other author's headshot in it that I'm speaking to, and the number of times I get sent these like half faces and things that, I mean, I go ahead and put it in, but it doesn't look as good as if they had given me a headshot.
Right.
Or they,
Right. And I've had to go back and ask, do you
yes,
have anything else?
yes,
Which is not comfortable for either of us.
right, right. And so so if you like those kinds of action shots, I don't think there's anything wrong with including it too, because it could
Right.
be that someone could use that depending on whatever they're creating. But by all
Right.
means, you want to provide the standard. You want to make sure that they get a headshot. And then if you want to add other things too, I don't think there's any problem with that.
I agree. We really went off on a tangent there, but I think it's important information that people don't think about. And then again, you can use that content for your own purposes across social media and when people need information from you. So that it's not just a one-off.
Absolutely.
It's valuable information. I do want to say too, some people may or may not agree with this, but if you get a free Canva account, I mean, I have a pro because I use it all the time, but if you get a free Canva account, that can help you tremendously in putting together your media kit
Absolutely.
and getting your photos correctly because now their photo editing is improved so much. There's a lot that you can do in Canva that is easy to understand and will save you a lot of time.
Absolutely. And it can get rid of bad
Yep.
backgrounds and do all kinds of things that allow you now to have a more professional looking photo.
Right, right. And I mean, I have to use it a lot to adjust photos when I work with them. I used to do it in Photoshop, but now I could do it much quicker in Canva. When you have a photo on the internet, it's not the same as having a photo in your hand. You have to really think about how it's going to show up online. And
Absolutely.
showing up online, it usually has a little added contrast and the colors are a little brighter. I mean, it's just a different look. So,
Absolutely.
but you don't want to over edit it either.
Yeah, yeah, you don't want to look like you've been through a facelift.
Right.
Right?
Well, maybe.
You still want to look like yourself. So I think that's
maybe. Let me think about that.
no, but I think that's another thing to really consider. If you are planning on being in person, so you're going to show up and be live somewhere and speak to the population, or you're going to be on a podcast where they also do video, you want to look relatively similar to the photo that you've put out there. You don't want to put a photo of you 30 years ago and then show up because that's not what people are going to be expecting. They are going to have gotten information where they think they know who you are, and then they're going to look at you and wonder, who are you? So you want to try
And
to,
people
yeah,
do think about the demographics of who the audience is who their audience is and what the guests can provide that audience.
absolutely.
Maybe their audience is a younger audience,
Right.
Or vice versa.
Right. Right.
So
I think
no,
you're trying to be honest. And it's the same thing when you're writing your bio. You want to be honest. It's okay to tell them things and to be prolific with what you tell them, but you don't want to tell them lies. And you also don't want to tell them lies
right,
with your photos.
right. But do show yourself in the best light possible.
Absolutely.
You would also keep in mind how your cover files look.
Absolutely. I recommend a couple of different things for your covers. One is just a two-dimensional cover graphic, just the cover, nothing else, no shadowing, no pages, no three-dimensional spine, just the cover, because there are a lot of people that's what they need when they're creating whatever social media or graphics that they're creating. So you want to provide just the cover. But then you can also find places that will create a 3D so that you have a book that's kind of like standing with its pages and a little shadow. So definitely provide the 2D, and then you can provide a couple of these 3D kind of book covers as well. I use a place, it's called DIYbookcovers.com. And you go in, you put in your book cover, and then they create a multitude of different ways that you can display your book. Standing on end, looking like it's on a phone, looking like it's on a tablet, showing it as an audiobook, those kinds of things. And so definitely provide a very basic, and then you can also provide some that are a little more artisty, that give a little bit more of an artistic flair to them. And you want those that have the artistic flair sometimes maybe have just a clear background and then sometimes have a background so that whoever is looking has a chance to pick what's going to work for them. Once again, you're trying to make it
Right.
easy for people to help you.
I have a suggestion too concerning the overall media kit is take some time to look at other people's media kits
Yes.
and try to make sure that your media kit doesn't look like a Word document that you threw together, that it looks more professional. And it may cause you may have to learn a few skills to do that, but it'll be well worth it because how the media kit looks is a first impression that someone is going to have of you that is trying to decide if they want you to do an event or a podcast or whatever that they're looking at it
Absolutely.
for. So that's really important, I think, is to take the time to see what other people are including, how they're setting it up. The other thing I was going to say is don't make it too busy. That doesn't mean that you can't include all the information you want to include, but leave enough white spaces
Yes.
and don't try to avoid huge blocks of text, except for your bio, of course. But even that, break up into paragraphs. Try to make it look readable and comfortable for whoever's media kit.
Yeah.
But that's also the same for the web page that you often have on your website that is set up to be your quote media kit unquote.
Right.
Same thing.
Right. And
Just pay attention to how it's laid out.
I think another thing when you're doing the layout is to consider the headings. You want to make it easy. Someone's looking for a bio, they can look down, they see the word bio, they now know where they are. So
Right.
don't just have it all thrown in there and expect people to read through everything. Make it so that if they're looking specifically for headshots, that they know exactly where to go to get them, that they don't have to sift through the whole media kit to find it, especially if you have a media kit that has all of your awards and all of your podcasts. Like I've been on over 100 podcasts. So if I'm going to put all of those in to a media kit, I don't want someone to have to sift through all of that if what they're actually looking for is my
Of course.
bio.
Of course. Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. I think it's the information that you have as an author slash personality is very important to have well developed it and to make sure that you include everything that you want to include. It's I see a lot of them, and I know you do too, Terry, that you can tell when somebody's taken no real time to put together a media kit compared to somebody who's done it and made it look professional and organized and easy to understand.
Yeah, absolutely. This is something that I do. I don't know that all authors do this, but I have a media kit for each one of my books. And then I also have a more general media kit that's about me. So if someone is contacting me because of one of my books, for instance, they want me to come and speak on Daughters of Green Mountain Gap, then that is the media kit I am going to send them. On the other hand,
Smart.
if they're asking me to speak generally as Terri the author, well, then I have a media kit that I can send them that is about Terri the author versus a specific book. And it will have all of my book information in it, but maybe not as detailed about each book. It will have the general information and far more details about me. Whereas a book, if someone is wanting Daughters of Green Mountain Gap, then they're going to get a lot more information about that book because that's the one they're talking about. That's the one they want me there for. So I know it's a little more work, but once again, you're using a lot of the same information. So you need to do this per book and then also just have a more generic one about you as the author, as the personality.
Yeah, that is really smart. I like that. That makes so much sense. The difference between presenting at a book club and presenting at a writers conference is kind of night
Absolutely.
and day.
Absolutely. And,
Yeah.
when you, for instance, if you get on a podcast, they often, the reason that you're on a podcast is for a specific book. And that's what they want to know about. They really don't, I mean, not that they don't care, but they really don't care as much about all of the other stuff. So you want to give them what they're looking for. But if you're being asked to do a keynote speaker at a literary event, well, they want to know about you as an author, all told, all across the board, not just a book. So you need to give them that.
The other thing is too, when you're building the web page, I know a lot of authors do build their own sites. That's the only reason I bring it up. But if you're building a web page, take the time to make sure that it's search engine optimized and generative machine optimized so that the AI, when people search with AI, they can find it easily. When people search with a regular search engine, they can find it easily. So just learn. It's not hard. Just learn how that's set up and uh, try to make sure that your web page fits the needs for that.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah. So that's what my business is, building websites. So I kind of know.
So
So
I may be reaching
yeah,
out to you to talk to you a little bit about AI optimization because I don't know much about that. So
I'm going to tell you, please do, but I'm going to tell you the very simple thing about it is make sure you're asking and answering questions
okay. That sounds easy.
because
Yeah.
yeah, so like what you said about putting the answers and the questions and the answers in your media kit
Yes.
that people could ask you and what your potential answers, that's very good for GEO.
Okay.
So yeah, that's you're already doing well.
And I didn't
But
even know
that
it.
is something to take advantage of throughout your whole website
Right.
is the answering and asking of questions, making sure you have an FAQ page, et cetera, et cetera. But it's so new thinking about these things that a lot of people aren't aware that's something to consider. So it's worth bringing up.
Absolutely.
But well, Terri, tell me what you have coming up. Are you working on anything?
Yeah, I always am working on something. I I'm writing right now a dual timeline historical fiction. I'm not real sure where it's going yet. I'm a pantser. So for those of you who don't know what that is, I write by the seat of my pants without an outline. So I kind of sort of think I know where things are going, but I'm not 100% confident. But it's a dual timeline. Uh, in today's world, we have an anthropologist who is studying the Inca population, and she's really involved in studying Kipu, which is Khipu. It kind of looks like macrame knots. And for years and years, they thought that people were just like keeping accounting, like how many sheep and how many, bales of hay. And they've since learned that they think that it is telling a narrative story. Well, that just blew my mind. So I have this woman who is researching a new kipu that was found, and then the backstory is we see the woman who was creating the kipu back in the 1500s. And so I don't really know exactly where it's going, but that's what I'm writing at the moment.
It's very interesting. Yeah, I assume you have to do a lot of research to be
Yes,
able to write that. And to me, that's one of my favorite parts.
it is.
I love to research.
It is mine too, and I think it's one of the reasons why I really love writing historical fiction. I've written other things and I enjoy writing them, but writing historical fiction means I get to marry my two best things, which is research and writing. And to do both of them in the same project is a lot of fun for me.
My daughter teases me. She said, if the FBI walked into this house and saw some of your books, you would be in trouble because I have literally over a shelf of forensic, how to poison people, how to
Yes.
kill people.
Well, and
All these books.
I've
I mean,
decided
some of them are really,
I've decided the same
yeah.
thing would happen if they got into my internet history. and looked at where,
Exactly.
they'd be like, oh, what is she
Exactly.
up to,
For sure.
I also think that it probably sends my Google, how they always throw the ads up as to what they think that you want to know about because of what you've been searching. I get some of the
Yes.
craziest ads because it's like I don't care about that in my personal life, but I've been looking it up for whatever. And yeah, it's funny. It's pretty funny.
I'm a fantasy writer, so I have an enormous amount of either, and some are like empirical type research, some are books on them, but on vampires and werewolves and I can't talk, Norse mythology,
Right.
all kinds of the, and my daughter doesn't even know what she's going to do with these books when I'm gone, but they've been very helpful.
I'm sure they have
And I
been.
could tell you things. Okay, Terry, I really appreciate you spending time with me today. I hope that we gave some wonderful suggestions on how to start a media kit and what it needs to involve. But also, too, if you do have a media kit and you haven't updated it in 6 months or more, take some time, go through it and see what you can add or change.
Yeah.
I think that would be a really valuable thing to do.
And you always need to be looking at, updating your bio because have you done something new recently? Because the more recent things you've done are often more important than things that you did, 22 years ago. And so if you've recently spoken somewhere, you need to make sure you get that in there. If you've recently published a new book, you need to make sure that is listed somewhere. You don't want to look back and realize you've been sending out your bio and you haven't looked at it in 2.5 years.
Yeah, it can make or break you.
It absolutely can.
Okay, so share with people how they can find you and learn more about your books.
Yeah, the best way is to go to my website, which is my name, Teri M. Brown. That's Terry with one R, TERIMBROWN.com. There you'll find all of my books. You'll find my social media icons. You'll find the podcasts that I run and the ones I've been on. You can sign up for my newsletter. I have a contact me page that you could reach out to. And of course, my media kit's there.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate you like I said, taking the time to spend with me today on a Saturday.
Thank you so much for having me, Laura. I've really enjoyed it.
Oh, good, good. I think this is going to be a very valuable episode. To learn more about the podcast and to sign up to be the first to learn when new episodes are up, visit thewritingbiz.com. Don't forget to hit like, share, and subscribe. And until next time, take what you've learned and put it to work in your own writing biz. Thanks, Terry.
Thank you.